Hi everyone, it's Hannah here, and welcome to our 5 p.m. Q&A Monday. I'm really excited about this week's topic. Just so you know, because I work with my practice, we work with quite a lot of medical professionals who works in the public sector. So actually, every week, because we collect the questions, what are the popular topics people like to find the answer, or like to find out more, then we will have it, collect the questions and have it as a live. So today's topic is about IR35. So what does that mean? Well, in a bit, I'll share a little bit about what does that mean, and so you will have an idea. Hi Mina, hi Amber, welcome to the live. So because hello, thanks for the heart. So because we work with lots of doctors who work in public sector, it's actually because not just clients ask a question, but it's actually quite hot topic at the moment. So, and it's coming into play in April 2017. So it just literally just less than 2 months. It's actually just a little bit more than a month's time, then it will come into play. So it's really the time to put into surface. And if you are already aware of it, I think this session will help you to get more idea and what you can do. If you're not familiar with it, I think it's also the kind of session that I will explain in the plain language. So just I avoid using any jargon, anything, apart from I have to name the legislation itself. That name is called IR35. Okay. Oh, thanks for the like. So what does that mean? I think it's good to give you example. So if you run a business and you hire a bookkeeper, I think everyone knows what bookkeepers do. Hello, Michael. So what they do is you might hire a bookkeeper and he stay in your office like 3 days a week. And he is obviously self-employed, and to be tax efficient, he set up a limited company to carry all his income. So he's with you 3 days a week, and he might have other clients like sit 1 day a week or 2 days a week or 1 day every other week. So it doesn't matter, but he's with you 3 days a week, and you have a contract with him, with his limited company. But how do you make sure, he sits in your office? How do you distinguish him as a self-employed contractor with your other employees? So, sometimes if everyone sits in the office, it's pretty kind of hard to distinguish what's the difference between him and the employee. So, for instance, if you hire that bookkeeper, he only works for you like 3 days a week. Whenever he's sick, he just tell you, yeah, I'm sick, just a sort of professional courtesy, like just to say, yeah, I can't show up today, I'm sick, but I can come the other day. So you are fine with that. And also any sort of employee's party, employee's annual function, he's not involved. And also, perhaps, what you allow him to do is, if he's not available, he's able to find a substitute that he directly hired, someone he directly hired and can do the same job for you. So clearly that he is your supplier. That's a business, that company is your supplier. So you basically is his client, and that's not his employer. So in this case, other employees, when they are sick, they have to give notice. And also, of course, when they are sick, the employees are sick, they cannot hire anyone. They have no right to find a substitute themselves. You as employer have to take care of this. So basically, that's a sort of distinction. And it's really the level of control and what your relationship. Do you really gain the complete control of him? Do you want him to sort of work in a certain way, or require him to turn up on a certain time or certain date? So in that case, if that's like a very flexible, you only have a terms and condition. It literally, he can one day turn on to you and say, I don't work for you anymore. Or you one day can turn up for him say, I don't need you anymore. So in that case, it seems like he's just your supplier. But what if that bookkeeper, despite what sort of, if he's self-employed, if he's running a limited company, what if you require him, like if he cannot turn up and you have to say, yeah, you have to give certain notice. And also you can't send any substitute. We have to have you here. Or you give that person, your bookkeeper, like training. He has to work in a certain way, have to come on a certain date. You have total control of him, and plus he's participating all the annual dinner like employees function. Then, despite what sort of a business structure he has, then clearly the working relationship, he's your employee. So in this case, normally the taxman carry out this IR35 thing, just to to really find out this sort of employee in disguise, and because he is a limited company, he save whole lot of tax like national insurance. He's avoiding national insurance and company tax. He claim all the expenses and he only have to pay 20% of whatever he earns. But as an employee, he's obviously paying a lot more tax. So it's definitely, in this case, if you are like the employee, but you are being taxed this way, the taxman is not happy with it. But currently, in public or private sector, there are a lot of contractors working as a personal service company. Well, despite what sort of a contract they are, but it is likely for a lot of people, they are either probably completely a low risk. It's just a supplier. It's clearly a supplier relationship. But some people might sit in the middle, and you can fall into a employee relationship, or you can be outside of it. Or some people have a very high risk. You are clearly is an employee, but you are working this way. So that's why the government would have this legislation to really charge the tax. You have to pay the proper tax, just based on the fact that your working relationship is more employee rather than a supplier. So so that's the case. And what's coming in April is in public sector, especially because we work with a lot of locum doctors who are working within NHS. So it's actually, a lot of them have a direct, they sort of change, have a direct impact on them. That's obviously financially the take-home pay. So what exactly will happen? It's just at the moment, it really depends on if you're a senior doctor, if you're a hospital consultant, or if you're a junior registrar. It really depends. And different people, the term of the work varies. But just give you some example. Say, for example, if you are like a locum GP working in like 2 or 3 practices, work for 2 or 3 different practices, and you only have a very sort of a terms and condition, and you just say if someone is on maternity leave or someone is on leave, you cover them. That person, like the practice, can phone you to book you, give you very short notice, say, can you come tomorrow because we need some cover. Then you come for the day or 2 days, and then probably the next week, that's a different cover. So, and also it's like, it's not a long-term commitment at all. It might be one day you can turn up for one practice, say, I don't work with you anymore. Or the practice turn up saying, we don't need you anymore. So in that case, you might be fine. Hi, Wenky, how are you? Hi, Wendy, I didn't notice you were there. So, basically, in that case, because you have this sort of flexibility, the practice is not really controlling you. They probably just need some sort of temporary supplier, someone who can cover. then yeah, in this case, you might be fine. It's like you're just a supplier. You just provide your service on the day and with a very short notice. So you'll be fine in that case. But what if you are, especially nowadays, like nurses or junior registrar? Because junior registrar, what will happen is most likely the nature of work is like they're supervised. They get supervised. Even if you are working on the freelance basis, even if you have a limited company, what will happen is, based on the fact that you have the practice is gaining control on you, and perhaps you work with one practice like 4 days a week, and then with one practice for 3 or 6 months, that is likely that you're it's sort of the in taxman's eyes, they might regard you as employee in disguise. So in this case, I think what might happen is because at the moment for all the contractors, it's up to you. You can find an external expert to have your contract reviewed, have your employment status to be tested. But what will happen from April is all the practice, all the trust, they have to assess you. But what will happen is it might be, say, for junior registrar, all the junior registrar, or for all the nurses, the trust will take sort of they don't want to risk anything. They want to be compliant. They don't want to take risks at all. So they might just push everyone in this level and just regard them as employee, or they even don't consider like self-employed individual at all. So if on that basis, it might be, you have to work as an employee. Doesn't matter if you have a limited company before or whatever, basically your tax will be subject to proper employee tax. So that's what might happen. But perhaps for the consultants, like hospital consultants, you might not be subject to supervision, and especially if you work like ad hoc, or you are just like the first example, say you just for the maternity cover, something like that, or you can draft your contract in a way that the hospital or the practice doesn't gain the direct control on you. So you in this case you might be fine. And normally, what will happen if you find someone like a specialist to review the contract, and it turns out you are low risk, or if you're outside this IR35, then it's good that once you get this test and you're given a certificate, there's a verification number, say it's verified that you're outside this IR35, then that gives you extra assurance that you can carry on what you're doing, like as a limited company, or you can have your wife to share your company to be more tax efficient, or hire kids if they're old enough. Then that's what you can do in that case. So there are different various actions that you can take. So I think also, because this topic IR35 last week actually is a different angle. Like people ask questions in really detailed and different angle. By the way, after this session, because all these points are collected from our clients, like the points raised by our clients who are working in NHS, they think they might be affected by this change. Then if you find that's relevant to you or your colleague or anyone you think of, please be free to share this video and share directly on Facebook, or we'll be on YouTube as well, so I'll send through as well. So be free to share. Okay, because these points are raised by the clients. It's not really what I think you should know, but the clients, they ask. So some clients, they ask, what are the financial impact? I think it's really need to run the numbers. I think it's very beneficial that I run the numbers. What's the likelihood of financial impact? Even if in the end you have to accept the fact There's nothing you can do. You have to accept. You're gonna be by default inside this IR35. You have to be paid extra tax, but how much extra you have to pay? Just to give you one example, if you are a locum working on the rate of £60 per hour, and given the base that you are working like full time, so what's the financial impact? So by the year you are earning roughly, well, this just doesn't consider like holidays, anything, but for the year you are roughly earning 90K or even almost 100K. So what's the financial impact? For the year, you will be 5,000 if you are inside, be caught by this IR35 or the rule change or the impact, affect by the impact. Then what will happen is you will pay extra 5,000, roughly 5,500 in tax for the year. So you are 5,500 worse off if you are inside IR35. Or by default, you have to be inside anyway. So that's what will happen. But if you are on different rate, higher or lower, or if you are just working on part-time, or if you are working on, you think you are certain that for certain amount of weeks you're not working, then it might differ. But then just to give you a guidance, that's if you are on the rate of £60 per hour, and given the assumption that you are working on full-time basis, and you are the sole director of the company, and you're extracting everything as dividends, then that's 5,500 worth of. But of course, if you are completely outside this IR35, you can even take this tax saving even further, that to share the company, share the dividends with your spouse. Then, if that's the case, if you are doing that sort of a spouse share, then suddenly you're being caught inside IR35, then the financial impact, the difference will be even higher. So that's just to give you an idea what will happen, what's the financial impact. Okay, so the other questions, thanks for the like. The other question people asked was, will the taxman retrospectively to charge you tax? Say, for instance, if you've been working as a nurse before, and you are working as like a under a limited company, and then what if your terms and conditions hasn't changed, but then from April you have to be like employee? Will HMRC sort of retrospectively want to charge you tax like for the previous years? So far, good news, no. I don't think HMRC has said they will retrospectively charge you tax or anything. So that's a good news. You don't have to worry about that. Even if they say it might, well, even if it will happen, it cannot happen like give you a surprise. I don't think the taxman will be that mean. Any changes, any sort of, if they try to tax you anything, normally the way they do is on scaling stage basis. On this whole IR35 thing at the moment is affecting public sector. Of course, if you're still in the private sector, you're fine. But I think it's also, I think this video probably also benefits those contractors working in the private sector as well, because it might affect you someday. It's not now, but might be someday. And you can just plan in the advance by looking at what's happening in public sector, and you can have an idea what might happen and plan ahead. So I think I would suggest, if you do know anyone who are working as a contractor, and really do share this video. I really bring up all the clients' questions and into this video. So if that's really valuable to your to your friends or to you, really be free to share. Okay, so good news, HMRC is not going to retrospectively charge this. And some people are saying, will that affect me if I work in Scotland? Well, although at the moment doing my research, it doesn't really say what's a difference if that you are in England or in Scotland. But at the moment, even in the general tax saying the general tax scale, Scotland and England, they haven't been much difference, even if they have been, they have to be independent. But for the whole tax system change, it's not going to happen that quick. So although from like 17, 18, I think Scottish, they have a different rates of tax. But for the whole thing, at the moment, HMRC is still collecting Scottish taxpayers' tax. So I think IR35, it's not going to be any difference like between Scotland and England at the moment. And also, even if you're working in Scotland, I think still the rule, the concept of what's looking at your relationship with the practice, with the hospital you're working for, what's your relationship, and also you see if you're senior doctor or you're junior registrar, it's really, I think there's not much difference if you're working in Scotland. Okay, so I think that's some questions. These are really good questions, but I think good discussion is normally after the session. So if you do have further questions, be free to comment here or be free to send me a direct message. So I will answer regarding this topic. So we've discussed, have an idea what will happen, and answer some questions. So what you need to do? Basically, what we're gonna do about it? As you can see, what are the possible outcome is, first thing, you might have to accept that there's nothing else, nothing more you can do. You have to accept being charged more tax. The other thing is, perhaps you can look at, are you going to change the way you work in the new year or very soon? Are you, because I know some doctors, they are working as a freelance basis, but their goal, their idea is eventually they want to become like private practice. So is that the time that you can think of changing the way you work, or it's a time you can start planning your private work. So that might be an option. That doesn't mean I have to push every single person, every doctors to be like businessman. That's not an idea. Or change a career. I'm not a career coach, but if you do think changing or stepping into the like business entrepreneurship, do talk to a business mentor or the career coach. But then if that's appealing to you, then perhaps that's something you can think of. Or if you say, I don't think I'll be directly controlled by the hospital, by any trust, any practice anyway. So perhaps I can just either just have a test. I think run the test anyway. If you do need to run a test or anything, have that certificate, do speak to me, so I can help you out with that. So run the test. Then if that's like outside IR35, and then you get that certificate that you confirm you're outside of it, and you can just doing whatever you carry on doing whatever you do, and being tax efficient, you can do that way. Or if there anything, perhaps even we run that test, if you are sort of sitting in the middle, like in between of inside and outside, there are some suggestions that you can do to try to push you to that way, like outside. But in terms of changing the contract words, you might need to talk to a legal person who are specializing in this area to really how you can amend the legal contract. But if you do want to have some further actions on the testing of your status, please speak to me first, and then after running the test, we will see what your outcome is, and then what to do next, and point you to the right direction. So that's something you can do. But for people, I know for some people it might be what might happen, like junior registrars or nurses. What might happen the trust might push everyone like being PAYE, and you can't be self-employed or be like save tax that way anymore. But there are other options you can consider, like to be tax efficient. That doesn't mean being an employee doesn't mean you cannot be tax efficient. You can have other choices, like one thing is contribute to pension, private pension. That's highly beneficial because, if you contribute to pension, you are investing your future. If you're running like paying tax at 40%, for every 60 pence you invest and the taxman top up, make it bigger, top up 40 pence. So you do get some tax relief on the pension contribution. So that's something you can do. Perhaps say if you are working as a nurse and after run the numbers, that doesn't make much difference between you being PAYE and being this sort of a contracting as a company. Perhaps it's just worth, perhaps you just say, yeah, I'm not going to spend that much money, hire a lawyer to look at the contract, probably not worth it. But then contribute to the pension, that's a lot cheaper. And it can be highly beneficial as well for the both short term and the long term. Or there's actually other options, like there are some very tax efficient investments out there to help you to put your money in, and you can grow your money and be tax efficient, so you get a tax-free return. Say, I think in the first episode, I briefly mentioned about venture capital trust. That's basically one of the government allowance. These are completely legal. So what it does is, if you invest £1,000 into it, then the taxman give you £300 back in cash. So the £1,000 you invest into that trust, that's actually still yours. That's your equity. And then what you do is you actually help that venture capital trust. They actually funding various startup companies that they can grow. So what good things can happen is if those company grows, then eventually they will pay out dividends, and the dividends from these companies, these venture capital trust, these are tax-free dividends. So why not? You can grow your money, you invest, you do the investment, and the taxman give you very, very lucrative tax relief. And then later on you get tax-free return, and why not? That's something you can consider as well. So if there's really nothing you can do, really consider some other options. But if you do want to have more idea, tailored, different people, you can accept different type of a strategy, or you just say, I just leave it as it is for now. But then if you do want to have more discussion with that, or what's your options, and do speak to me, either send me a direct message or just a comment below. So yeah, it's just always remember there is always a way. There is always a way out. So it doesn't matter what are the results. There is always a strategy. So I think for all type of like this sort of policy change, taxation change, sometimes can be you can feel it's a bit of hit. It's like why these things happens? Why government doing this? It affects our take-home pay. We have this mortgage to pay. We have our kids to feed. We have this and that. We want to live a better life. Basically, everyone wants. But when these things happen, it can be. You don't have to let it to hit you, and you don't have to get a fear, or you don't have to, worry too much about that. Always think there's always a way, and perhaps you can use it to leverage. If you always think about being like self-employed, or running your own private practice. So there is always something you can do. perhaps you can just, it's a time you can start planning your private work, your own business, and really use it to give you a kick. So give you sort of a kick-ass action that you have to start taking action now and to get your business going. So you can even leverage that. So there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. So I think we've been through quite a lot of like all the questions and some options. So basically, what would be the action steps to take? I think to start with, really start with yourself. I think what feels really ask what feels right for you for the next step for your career. What you want to where you want to be. So really ask yourself, like, is that being the employee, like working for one person, that's my ultimate goal, or what I want to do something else? Then perhaps we can just say, look at the change, and if that's really do you a favor, I think whatever change happens, really use it. Don't react in a way that is acting for your favor, not against you. So really assess yourself. And the second thing, get your employment status and contract tested, like IR35 test. So if you do want that, do speak to me. Get that tested. I think that just at least gives some reassurance. And third thing, either carry on or you want to discuss more about the tax strategies, investments, anything. So we can discuss about it. So I think that's pretty much the suggestions I give to you. I think still we have the old rule, the Q&A. We'll collect the questions and we'll answer them. And because this time we discussed briefly about the investment, the venture capital trust, actually in one of our future sessions, might be next week, might be the week after, so I have to speak to the specialist. That part, actually, I'm bringing a specialist who's specialist in advising this. He's a wealth manager. So I bring him in, answer the questions about the tax efficient investment and how to go about with it. So he's a person, he's an expert, and we bring him. I think for this Q&A, of course, it's me representing tax deductible lifestyle to answer most of the questions about tax, help you really be tax efficient legally. But sometimes I think it's highly beneficial that I bring in some other experts, so can really help you out in a deeper way or in a different perspective. So I'll keep you updated on Facebook about when we will bring in the expert. But in the meantime, any questions related to tax, please be free to share and be free to comment. So that might be one of our Q&A. And really, I would really like to listen to you, that what you really want to know, what really matters to you in terms of finances and taxes, so we can help you out even more. And finally, I think that's a quote that I think I really like it. That's actually related to our topic. That's from our guru, Brian Tracy. So he said, everyone is essentially self-employed, even if you're an employee. So, and we always need to regard ourselves as a president of our personal service company. I think this actually, when I see this quote, I directly think about these freelancers who are working, like using the company and working for like a big customer, like working as a contractor. So because we call this company like personal service company, directly I think about that. But what does Brian Tracy really mean? It's more about our mindset. It's not about the like outside that we have a company, we have a structure. It's not that. It's more about what's inside of us. Do we see ourselves as being self-employed, or we are just think ourselves as employee and we work for someone, we want the security, we're obeying someone, and we just do what being told to do and we get the pay. So, or if you're thinking of like a self-employed, you are taking your own initiative. You actually constantly identify your own strengths and how you can add more value to your customers, and you choose to get paid by the value you input, rather than, I work for you, I do what's been told to do, and I get a pay, I get a security. So what is your mindset? What is your mindset when it comes to your career and your work? So I think it's really, when I look at this legislation change or everything, I think what it really tells us, like this IR35, what it's really telling us, if you're really someone self-employment minded, and if you might find yourself fine. You might, get a sort of contract that's you actually working as a supplier rather than the like employee in disguise. So if you're really self-employed minded, you might attract that sort of circumstances. So really everything comes from inside. And what I've realized is being self-employment minded people, or like business owners, actually, the business owners itself, the structure, it has government has more tax benefits on them. You can claim a lot more expenses like your mobile phone, even your travel. You can have all these tax benefits. Being a business owner, being a boss. But being employee, you can't have all these things. So government is also sort of having this tax incentive around the people who are self-employed. But eventually it's more like self-employment minded. I think, hi Anika. So I think all these changes, what is really telling us is everyone in the future it's more self-employment minded people. It doesn't mean you have to push everyone to be entrepreneurs, start out their business. But what it really means is even if you're working for someone, you are employee. It's you probably need to be self-employment minded. In that way, it's like you're taking more initiative. You're adding more value. Everyone choose to get paid based on the value they input. Then you become an asset to the company when you add a lot of value. When you give more to your company, you get more as a reward. So I think that's really what I realized for the big trends, all these changes. At the moment starting like all the small things, like starting from public sector, and then perhaps later on we'll go to private sector. We don't know, but I think all these changes, what they've been telling us is like we have to take our own initiative. It might be, in the future, a lot more people will be self-employed, and it's probably cheaper for the company to hire and better tax benefits. But then everything starts from within. Really, everyone starts thinking of being self-employed. You don't have to start a business yourself, but adopting that mindset, I think that's a trend. I think all these things, all these changes, really pushing us to start adopting that mindset. And I believe that's a future trend to add more value to the society, and that's a key thing for prosperity. So I think perhaps the key takeaway from this session, apart from the questions we discussed earlier on the technical part, the fact part, but also the higher, I call it even like the soft part, that's adopting a self-employed mindset. That's a trend. So I hope you enjoyed this session. Of course, as I said, if you do think any of your friends who are working as a contractor, who are wondering about this IR35, or even someone already like working in the public sector, like NHS, locum doctors, anyone you know, please be free to share this video and share as a reference, share this information and for them. I hope you find this useful, and please be free to contribute your questions, and we'll release our next topic during the week. So I hope you have a nice evening. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I look forward to see you again soon. Bye now.